Hello everyone, we're back. I'm Chase here with Christian. We are your RMFantasy SXperts going into round 15 in Foxborough.
Yeah, season's winding down.
It is, we got 3 more to go, but before we get into this week's race, we got to do a recap real quick of what just went down in Minneapolis. So let's get to it. This is our race recap. All right, so Minneapolis, it is done, round 14.
A lot went down, including a lot of snow.
Yeah,
Luckily, they had a roof on that place.
And that was the last Triple Crown. Now, if you guys didn't watch the races, here are your results. Tomac, 7th win of the season.
Triple Crown champion.
Triple Crown champion. Jason Anderson, 2nd place. Marvin Muscan, Justin Brayton it.
In his happy place in 4th. Always,
yes, he does a good triple round.
Every Triple Crown he took 4th.
All right, Justin Barsha, good
Bounced
comeback.
back, right to 5th, yep.
And then Weston Pike, your wild card.
Yep.
It was pretty good. You had a good round.
Thanks to the penalty on Anderson, got the top 5 right, first time ever.
And I thought I did good with 88 points, and then I just look at your score, and I was so mad, 107.
I thought people would be happy, but everyone I talked to was pretty mad I did that. So.
Well, speaking of points, what do we got for user stats?
The user stats was, the average score was 47 points. That was the highest of the year, 2nd highest of any round in the last 2 years. That wasn't a double points round. So good points all around. 113 perfect scores, which is exactly how many we had total last year.
But we even had another round this year. Earlier we had 103, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
So cashing in big on these predictable rounds. Almost 80% got one pick right. The top 4 were the most picked riders in those positions. I think that had a lot to do with it. No upsets.
And interesting, Baggett was the most picked rider not to place in the top 5.
He was picked by almost 37%, including myself for the wild card in 6th. He took 5th in the first main, 6th in the second. I thought I had it in the bag. Yeah. Then Pike had other plans, I heard.
Speaking of Pike, that's my highlight, is that guy was just battling with everybody, had his own crashes, almost took out Benny Blas, ran into a tough block, hurt the tough block.
Got ran over.
Got ran over by Eli Tomac. So Pike was just all over the map.
All over the place.
Pretty wild to see. But as far as injuries go, so Seeley, Grant, Roxon, Bogle, Weimer, Cooper Webb, those are all on the injury list. So as always, even after you make your picks, watch qualifying to make sure that your rider is still showing up and qualifying. But let's get into it. We got round 15 coming up. Kind of sad we're coming to an end.
Yep.
But we got Foxborough, so let's get into it. This is our track trends.
So Foxborough, there's a lot of things you need to know going into it. It's an early race. Make sure you tell everybody you know, get your picks in on time. They close at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Which is 12 o'clock Pacific.
Yep.
So super early.
Get them in maybe Friday night to be safe. Then watch qualifying if you have time. Maybe change them if you needed.
Alrighty.
But the track has a lot of 180 bowl turns. Screams Tomac to me. A cool sand sweeping turn section I saw. 2 whoop sections, one smaller, one longer. And it should be just a fast track. I see a lot of different rhythm lanes, everybody kind of slinking it a bit.
Sure.
So. And then 2016, things to know. Yeah. It wasn't on the series last year.
Yeah, it wasn't there last year, but in 2016, if you kind of want to know the race results from that, Roxon won. He led every lap. Tomac, Anderson were fast. They were both in your top 5. And then, of course, Christian, because he's such a Kennard fan, had to put in there. Kennard did get 5th at Foxborough.
Notable riders, you got to remember that.
And real quick, interesting. If Supercross played by fantasy rules, if the top 3 riders, Anderson, Muscan, and Tomac, dropped their 2 lowest rounds so far in the season, Anderson would have...
Still the lead.
Still the lead. 13 points over Muscan, and Tomac would be in 3rd. So kind of interesting. So just remember, guys, early race. I think it's going to be a really cool race. Also, big, long sand section. Sweeping right turn.
Big, long sand section. Then going back east, we kind of highlighted the riders that do the best on the east compared to west.
Yep.
We'll get into it a little deeper, but Brayton, Tomac, Wilson, and Stewart are the ones to watch. So
there we go. So that is it. That is our track trends. Now we got to talk about it because it's coming down to the wire. This is our points battle. All right, so for this week's points battle, similar to last week, we've got your top 3 dogs on the table, Tomac, Anderson, and Muscan. Now people say this is hard.
I think it's hard where to put them, but it might not be.
I think it's getting a little bit easier. Why?
Yeah, the last 3 of the last 4 rounds, that's exactly where they've placed. Tomac's 1, Anderson 2nd, and Muscan 3rd. So it might be safe to just leave them where they're at.
Just leave them where they're at. That's what I've done.
Yeah, lap times tell you. I mean, barring anything crazy, if you want to be conservative, our suggestions is to stay that way because Eli Tomac's won 7 of the last 12 rounds, including 3 of the last 4. He has the 2nd best average start and finish on the East Coast in standard rounds. He's qualified fastest in 5 out of the last 6 East Coast standard rounds and has won 4 of those, so it's a pretty good indicator. Jason Anderson, he's got a 39-point lead in the championship.
Yep, interesting stats on him.
We did a little math. If he gains 13 points on Muscan this round, he will eliminate him. It's a championship.
Okay.
Or 40 points in the last 3 rounds.
Okay.
If he gains 14 points combined in the next 3 rounds, he'll eliminate Tomac. And as of right now, Justin Brayton in 4th, he's already eliminated him by 1 point. So he doesn't need to do that great to really lock it down. Everyone knows.
But he wants to win.
Yep,
He is tired of Tomac doing that.
It's just to put it in perspective of what it would really take, almost a miracle for him to lose it.
Alrighty.
But he has led 24 laps in the last 2 rounds, so he's always up front. But then getting into Muscan.
So Muscan is the only rider to win other than Tomac since Daytona. So, but like you said, 3 out of the last 4 rounds, he's been in 3rd place. So I think for him, if he pulls a whole shot this weekend, he could win. But I would look at qualifying too for Muscan.
Yeah, he's finished exactly where he's qualified in the last 2 standard rounds.
So
watch when
look at qualifying. But that is it. That is our points battle. So for us, I think it's a little bit easier. But next up, what we think are the 2 hardest picks to make this week. That's going to be the spoilers. Who are the last 2 for the top 5? So let's get into it. This is our weekly spoilers. All right, so for this week's spoilers, very important, probably the hardest picks to make. But we're here to help you out. We've got 5 picks on the table, and we have ranked them in order of what we feel are the safest, going down to more of the most risky bets to put in your top 5, and we're gonna give a few reasons why. Justin Barcia came back from injury last week, crushed it, got in the top 5, so he's proven he can still be there. But a couple other interesting stats is that Justin Barcia has the 2nd best standard round starting average at 4.4, and he's been in the top 5 in 5 out of the 7 rounds that he's raced at this year. Solid top 5. Justin Brayton. So his last 4 rounds, not including Seattle, we're going to throw that away. That was a mud race. But he had gone 1 where he won Daytona, then 4, 3, 4. So solid top 5 pick.
On the East Coast, solid.
Yeah. Now something to watch for with Brayton is that there's been 2 rounds, the last 2 rounds that he qualified 9th or worse, he actually didn't make the top 5.
So qualifying does matter with him.
So if he's way out on qualifying, maybe not a great pick. What do you got for Pike?
Pike, first of all, I mean, he's all over the place from last week. I can't get over it. But he's only had 1 top 5 on the East Coast out of 7 rounds, so he's a bit riskier.
Last week, though, if he'd have had a better 3rd main, he would have been in top 5.
He didn't get out of the start clean or the first lap at least.
Well, he was just running into everybody.
It was wild. But he has taken 5th or 6th in 7 of the 14 rounds, so about half the time he's in there or not, which makes him really risky. Then we get into Blake Baggett. His last 4 standard overall finishes have been 8, 10, 6, 9. With his starts have just been horrible. 4, 19, 12, and 13. So he needs a good start.
But last week, his starts were good.
He was looking good. He was looking and a 6th in the main, so he might be on the comeback.
Speaking of Pike being all over the place, these 2 got together.
They might have had an incident. But his average start over the last 3 East Coast standard rounds, or his average start in the mains last week was 5.67, so he is getting better starts. Then we get into Wilson, where he's a bit of a longer stretch. He did podium, first career 450 podium on the East earlier this year. But his last 4 standard round finishes are 10, 2, 8, 8. I think he's more going to capitalize with the Tickle and Webb being gone type of deal.
All right. Well, what do you guys think? So that's kind of our power ranking for weekly spoilers. Do you guys think these are good? Who are you going to put for your top 5? I want to know, is there a rider who hasn't made the top 5 yet that could do it? I think Malcolm Stewart's a good pick.
I like Tyler Bowers too.
Tyler Bowers, so it would be really cool to see that. But there you go. But next we got to talk about it because it is probably, well, it is the most important pick because if it's time to make up points on your buddies or if you're in the hunt for one of our top 10 prizes at the end of the year, you've got to get these wild cards, and it's 10th place this week. So let's get into it. This is our wild card watch. All right, so for this week's wild card, like I mentioned earlier, it is 10th place. So we've got 4 riders on the table who statistically are good picks for this week. First rider, Benny Bloss. Now, Benny has finished 11th in 4 out of the last 6 rounds. He's also been between 9th and 11th 4 times this year. Dean Wilson, same as Bloss, where he's been between 9th and 11th 4 times this year. So these 2 guys, good picks. What do you got?
Christian Craig, his overall average finish on the season is 9th. So he's probably one of the closest riders to 10th on average. Malcolm Stewart, his average finish on the East Coast for standard rounds is 10.2.
Okay.
So a good bet there. And he also has taken 9th through 11th 5 times. So riders to watch. Yep.
Yeah. Who do you have this week?
I have Bloss picked to win, but I'm gonna watch qualifying because the average rider to qualify 9th about 9th or 10th, does take 10th. So it's
Okay.
usually a rider right around there. And the rider to take 10th in 2 out of the last 3 rounds is qualified 11th. So
Really?
watch that range.
Well,
That's a free hookup for you. Wildcard points this
doesn't
week.
cost you anything. It's free. Well, there you go. Those are 4 riders that we feel statistically are good picks for the wild card. What do you guys think? Comment below. Who do you think is going to take it this week? But next up, it's our favorite segment. It's Between Two Berms with the man, the people's champ,
Yep.
Adam Enticknap, the 7 Deuce Deuce. So let's get him on the phone. This is Between Two Berms. All right, so we've got him on the phone. It's Adam Enticknap, or the 7 Deuce Deuce.
People's champ.
Yeah. Now, Adam, when we called you earlier, you were actually said you were in the studio getting your flow on. So we got more music coming, right?
Oh yeah, I got a whole album coming out 7/22. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. It's absolutely amazing right now. I can't wait. It's coming together nicely.
Nice. Well, we've got some questions for you for this week's round. But before we get to that, we did hear you had a crash in Minneapolis, and what was the extent of it?
So I had an X-ray and I've had a CT scan. So far, I ended up fracturing my collarbone. We don't know exactly how deep it is or how bad it is yet. I had the CT scan and I have a doctor's appointment on Friday to see if I'm going to have surgery or what's going on. If it's not too deep, I should be able to be back for Salt Lake and for sure Vegas. So I'll kind of keep everybody up to date after tomorrow on Friday when we get the doctor results. But super bummer, just a little kind of washed the front end out, and I got a little high side. But luckily, it's only a collarbone. I feel like it's definitely one of the better bones to break, and I'll be back on the track in no time.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too bad.
Now, speaking of Salt Lake, for all you viewers out there, Adam, whether you race Salt Lake or not, can we expect you on the show next week?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be in town. No matter what, I am flying into Salt Lake. I'll be there signing autographs at, I think it's Honda World. They have it set up.
Yep.
And I'm also going to be at Rocky Mountain doing the show and checking out the team dinner. It should be awesome.
Well, that is why you're the people's champ, dude.
Showed up last year for the historic habanero episode.
Yeah, let's not talk about
geez.
that. Now, a couple questions we have about the races this weekend. So, it's super early track walk at 6:30 a.m. Does that affect the riders in any way, or like that day race schedule? Does that change anything?
I mean, I would say so because, you know, you're doing that 6:30 track walk, and if you're a West Coast guy, that's even 3 hours earlier, so you're looking at like a 3:30 track walk. I think if you're back there in North Carolina and in Florida, you're definitely going to have an advantage of waking up early. I know that everybody usually gets in on Thursday, so you get a day to acclimate, but, you know, that 6:30 track walk, it's so early. You know, sometimes you're just in an absolute haze, and we'll see how it plays out. I think the West Coast guys are definitely going to have a little bit of time to adjust, but we all know how to ride motocross, and that's super early in the morning. And you know, we've been professional for a long, long time, and we know how to do it pretty much in our sleep. So I think the guys will be fine. You know, but you never know; it could affect certain guys. So maybe look for those West Coast guys to not do quite as good.
Interesting. All right, Christian, what do you got?
With Webb and out now and Tickle suspension, it kind of leaves the 4th and 5th range wide open. Who are you kind of thinking about for those spots this week?
You know, I really think that Barsha coming back has been doing awesome, and I think Pike's a solid bet. But, you know, you've seen a couple guys like Bowers been doing pretty good, and maybe even Malcolm doing pretty good. So with those open spots, you might look for one of those guys like a Bowers or a Malcolm to come up and get one of those spots if you're willing to gamble. But if it's my picks, I'm probably going Barsha 4th, Pike 5th. But I think that's your solid bet. But if you're feeling Mookie or one of those two guys is got the lap time they need to have, maybe pick one of those guys that night. And two, the other thing that's going to play another factor is you kind of want to maybe look back at Seattle and see what's going on, because I heard it's snowing and raining in Boston the 2 days before the race, and then the track walk is at 6:30 and all the day racing, so it's not going to have a lot of time to dry. So that could be a whole nother factor to play in. So make sure you guys are watching the weather. Make sure you guys look back at Seattle to see those mud results and see who's going to put that good race in.
That's a good point.
Right on. Cool. Well, that's some good information for everyone out there trying to make your picks for this week. Listen to the 7 Deuce Deuce because he lives it. We pretend to live it.
Yeah, he's the man in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, he is there. Well, Adam, hey, man, thanks again for joining us. So good luck with your collarbone. We are rooting for you to be lining up on the gate in Salt Lake. But worst case scenario, he's still going to be on the show next week. So we are looking forward to having you here.
Yep.
Absolutely. I thank you guys so much, and good luck to all you RM Fantasy SX players.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Peace out, boys.
All right, we'll see ya.
Bye.
It's all good points.
It is. And I love how I think even one of our viewers out there commented, just put late. That's how he says goodbye every time.
He's the man.
Well, there you guys have heard it. The People's Champ, the 7 Deuce Deuce. Now remember, because next week he will be here in the studio with Christian and I to talk about Salt Lake Supercross in the end of the year Vegas round. So make sure check back in next week. But we got to get into it because you know what time it is.
It's time to lock him in.
Let's do it. All right, I will go first this week. 5 picks when I got 4.
Thought you was reeling me in, but not,
Dude,
not so
seriously,
fast. Not
all
so fast.
This week I've got Tomac, Anderson, Muscan, Barsha, Weston Pike, top 5, and Benny Bloss. He's my wild card.
I like what you're doing. I think you looked over my shoulder while I was putting in picks, trying to hop on
That's what you did last week?
the hot streak I might be riding. But Weston Pike, this guy just scares me. He's running over people. He's getting run over. He just seems a bit too risky for me.
He's going to run right over this man.
I'm putting Father Time Jr. in there, Justin Brayton. He's not going to take his happy place. I think Barsha's going to be on a roll. I like everything else you're doing here. I actually had Bloss too, so just need those points.
Well, there you go. Those are our picks. Remember, you guys can play with us. Just join Team RMATVMC on the fantasy website. You can create your own groups, play with your friends, your buddies. You can also play with the 7 Deuce Deuce crew, which is the biggest group in fantasy.
Oh, plenty of smack in there too.
Trivia.
Your
last favorite part.
Yep, the answer was 22.46%. That's the percentage of points the top 3 riders have taken all year, which is huge, out of 45 riders. This week's trivia, this rider, his only top 10 finishes of the year have been in the last 2 rounds. Okay. And he's only been to 2 LCQs all year, which he's won both of them.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Only 2 LCQs, but barely is just cracking top 10. Okay. What do you guys think? Comment below.
We can figure it out.
Yeah. So there it is. Those are our picks. That's a trivia. But now we need to talk about why you need to be playing RM Fantasy Supercross with us. So let's get into it. This is our prize recap. All right, man. It's the end of the season. We know what that means. We know you guys out there at the top of the leaderboard are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, they're starting to sweat. Things are getting real.
Woo! And they should be real, and they should be sweating because here's our top 10 grand prizes that are up for grabs. Remember, Fantasy Supercross is free. Okay. First place, Race Prep KTM 450 SX-F. Second place is a KTM 250 SX-F. Third place, VIP trip to Monster Cup.
Always a good time.
Yes, sir. Moab Red Rock Getaway for 4th. 5th place, you go on a trip to Alabama to the Proving Grounds to check out Dunlop tires. 6th place, Alpinestars Gear and Casual Package. 7th, Milestone Video Game, Supercross the Game Console, and 4K TV.
Can't be mad about that.
No, you cannot. Motion Pro Tools for 8th place. Tusk Impact Wheel Set for 9th, and for 10th, Oakley goggles and some sunglasses. And those are just grand prizes. Now we have our top 10 weekly prizes.
Oh yeah, we're also giving away 100 weekly prizes every round. So first place this week, top scorer will get a Recluse Radius CX clutch. Second place, Scotia Audio hookup package, going down to Pro Honda prize pack, Pirelli MX32 mid to hard tires, EVS base layer kits. Prizes from a Cherubies, Scott goggles, Bell helmets, Dirt Tricks, sprockets, Steg pegs, and of course 90 Rocky Mountain gift cards. So 100 chances to win.
100 weekly prizes and our top 10 grand prizes.
Hey, get yourself some of that.
Mic drop. And there you go. So you guys have seen it. So that is it. So make sure get your picks in early this week because remember they close at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. But that's all we got for you. So sign up, play, have a good time this weekend. Good luck. I am Chase.
I'm Christian.
We'll see you next week.